No men allowed. No men allowed.
Mhm. Oh, that sounds a little off. Okay, sounds like it was playing it over and over again. But thank you.
It was.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Velvet Room. Welcome, welcome. Good evening. Happy 2021. Welcome to our first Velvet Room of the year. I will just introduce myself really quickly and then we'll jump into what we do. I am Rhonda Slade, and I have been asked to be the host of this fabulous, fabulous show. And we've been working together now since, what, April, May, I think, or so of last year. Um, Working together, coming together as women and as sisters, and just sharing and uplifting each other. This is a positive environment, a uplifting environment. I always give this disclaimer. I am not a therapist. I am not a mental health expert. I am literally just a woman of a certain age, I guess, who has lived through some things and has learned some things along the way and is here to help. But I learned just as much from every one of you as y'all could ever learn from me. So I appreciate y'all coming in and joining in. I definitely appreciate the administrators of the group for allowing this platform. And tonight, we're going to talk about the power of forgiveness. Last month, we had a really powerful show, and the topic was Rise Up. And some of the women gave some amazing plans or things that they have risen up from and plans to continue to rise. And as we were talking, kind of some of the things that I thought about that were hindering us from our rising to the next level um, can be or could be rooted in unforgiveness. So I think as we're working out our plans for this new year, and as we are celebrating the fact that we made it through 2020 because so many people didn't, that it's important for us to think about the power of forgiveness and how we're going to um, exercise that if we haven't exercised that forgiveness muscle, if we haven't been using it um, in our romantic relationships, in our family relationships, in our work relationships, and even just in this space of being Black women in America. Woo, right? That's just in and of itself a whole thing. So I just want to start my first question for the night, and the way we always do this is it's an open forum. I do sometimes I'll try to check that. I try to monitor the chat, and I'm also going to be jumping on YouTube in a second and checking what's happening in YouTube. But to keep it as orderly as possible, if you could raise your hand in the little system, do you see if you see the place to raise your hand, I think it's at the participants box. Um, then I'll try to call on you in the order that I see them. But there'll be times also where I might just, if I see your face nodding or see you saying something like you're ready to chomp at the bit to say something, I might call on you. So please, this is an opportunity for us to share and uplift each other. So the first question, what does forgiveness mean to you? When you hear that word forgiveness, what does it mean in your opinion? Anyone want to start us off? I don't need a hand this time. I'll just take someone to unmute and get started because we don't have any. I can see. I don't want to call you out, little sis, but we had a really great conversation about forgiveness the other night. Aisha B, were you doing this? Was that you?
I can answer.
Okay.
Um, to me, forgiveness means, first of all, as the person being forgiven, it means respect, appreciation on some level, just respect. And then
Mm-hmm.
as the person forgiving, it means growth and really deciding to let something go out of your spirit, out of your mind, out of your home, your system, your job, your career, whatever. But really being ready to let something go.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, definitely.
Because, so you won't get fined type thing.
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
forgiveness where people be like, I'm sorry,
Right.
or I
Right.
forgive you, but then they turn around and call you like, girl, she called me talking about she's sorry.
That's not real forgiveness, is it?
Yeah, don't even waste the energy. Just keep not forgiving me.
Exactly. I understand. I agree with you on that one. That is so true. Oops. Oh, that is so true. I'm trying to turn my iPad down so I can see the comments on YouTube if there are any. So, um, so I was starting to say, I was starting to call you out. I'm going to go ahead and call you out anyway. You got to unmute yourself, but you don't want to unmute. You don't want to talk tonight.
I got you, sis. What's up?
I know you do. So the other night when we were kind of just mentioning this, you brought up some really great points about forgiveness, and I saw that you actually did a post in the lounge about forgiveness too. What does forgiveness mean to you?
Forgiveness to me, before you can forgive anybody else, you have to forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to forgive yourself for the mistreatment of yourself
Mm.
and the mistreatment that you allow people to give to you or to do to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to forgive them for them not apologizing for what they did or what they said to you. And you also have to forgive them for when they don't apologize. Because as long as you continuing to hold on to the negative, you're holding on to the past. As my grandmother used to say, God bless the dead, she used to say, as long as you're walking around with your hand balled up in a fish, you're not opening your hand in your life to receive blessings. So as long as you're holding a grudge and you're holding unforgiveness in your heart and in your life, you're blocking God from blessing you for anything greater. So
Mm-hmm.
forgiving people, whether they're right or wrong, whether you're right or wrong, is blocking over an abundance of blessings that may be coming to you. It may not be for you, it may be for your children, it may be for people around you, because
Mm-hmm.
blessings are connected to you, the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So when people automatically think of forgiveness, they think, oh, it's just for you. No, it could be forgiveness for people connected to you. So you have to think about, like, you're a tree and your roots and the branches to the tree. People connected to you are connected to your forgiveness. And so your healing and your forgiveness is connected to the roots and the branches in the tree trunk. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I forgive people even if they don't apologize, because I don't like to hold grudges, because I don't like negative energy. If you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
apologize, I don't care. I'm going about my business. I just don't be around you no more. I don't allow you in my space and my energy. You go about your business. I go about mine.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But I mean, totally. I mean, and in today's society, what we living in with coronavirus and whatever else, with the politics or whatever, people leaving here every day, every second of the day, and you leaving here with unforgiveness in your heart. That brings cancer, that breeds heart attacks, strokes, ulcers, whatever. Do you want to die prematurely with
Mm-hmm.
unforgiveness?
Right.
No need. So
No need.
forgive. If they don't want to accept your apology and forgive you, move on.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Kim J, I see your hand.
Nye really just summed it all up, but I kept thinking that one of the things I've learned um, is that true forgiveness to me means being able to let it go without hearing the words.
Mm-hmm.
So without the closure, and as women, sometimes we need that closure,
Right.
but what I've learned for me is just true forgiveness is not I don't need to hear the words in order to forgive. I need to forgive in order to have peace in my heart and be able to sleep at night. So I don't need your words. I will have peace, and that adult part of me, when I need someone to forgive me, I know that a lot of times I need to say those words, I'm sorry. And I would say, I don't want a little funky sorry. I
Right.
want to know exactly what you are sorry for. And so when I apologize, I definitely, my new word is intentional. I'm intentional
Mhm.
about, I'm sorry for this.
Mhm.
Because I know that's been a stickler with me when people, well, I'm sorry. Keep it.
Right.
Keep it. What did
Exactly.
you do?
I love it. I love it. Shonda and then Courtney.
Hello. Excuse me, I'm not able to come off to show my video right just yet.
Okay.
But I look at forgiveness as letting go of hurt.
Mm.
Um, we can't control anyone else. We can only control ourselves. So the way that you apologize, the way that they say it, like everything that has to do with everybody else really has nothing to do with forgiveness when I think about it. I think about it as me being able to let go, regardless of the other person. Um, I grew up my entire life mad at my dad for not being there. My entire hated him, could
Mm.
not forgive him, and that played a big part in just my overall happiness. But when I grew up and I became an adult and I had my own kids, and I was like, oh, okay, so we can't be perfect at this. I realized that, okay, I gotta let that go. So that's how I look at forgiveness.
Mhm. That's
Thank
wonderful. Thank you. Courtney.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something very similar, just to respond to your question, which is, what is forgiveness? I think about what it is and what it's not. So I think about what it is. I think it's, you are deciding to change the way you feel about something. Like you're feeling angry, you're feeling resentful, you are feeling mad about something, and you're choosing that you're
Oh no, you're
that way
frozen.
anymore.
Okay.
So people say it at love it. Um, oh,
Okay,
am I moving again?
you're back. Yes.
Okay. But then I think about you probably have this in your quitting it. It's not saying this never happened, not to me. It is saying I'm not going to feel a certain way about it. But it's not erasing it as if it never happens. And I bring that up because I've definitely heard forgive and forget. You haven't truly forgiven
Mm.
if you still like it happened to you, or this whole thing took place. So yeah, I just wanted to put that little nuance in there. I think it is changing the way you feel, but it's not necessarily acting as if it never took place.
Right. Okay, wonderful. And so that's why I love these chats, because again, y'all are providing some amazing nuggets for each other, those who are watching and listening, and it all just ties in, right? And it just shows, because that's usually when I think about forgiveness, and sometimes people, when they mention it, their first thought is, I ain't forgiven. That's too much.
Oh,
I'm
thank
not
you.
going to forgive them. LaShawn, you're not muted anymore. um, so they choose to hold on to it, and not really understanding, like you all are saying, how that's actually holding them back, right? To hold on to all of that. And it took me personally a while to forgive. And I love how Nye brought up the fact about forgiving yourself, right? And that was going to be my next question: is when you think about forgiveness, do you think about the fact that you need to forgive yourself as well? I will use myself as an example. Um, for years, I blamed my ex-husband for all the drama in my life. I was like, it's all his fault. Everything was his fault. the whole demise of the marriage was his fault, yada, yada, yada. But after a while, I matured and I really started thinking about it. I did play a role in the demise by, and my kids will tell me now as they're adults, they're like, well, you're the one that married him, right? And they say it in jest, but it is true. I did make that decision, right? And he's not a bad person. He's not a horrible person at all, but he just wasn't the right person for me, right? The right husband for me. And instead of blaming him, I should have been not necessarily even blaming myself, but really looking at, why did I even allow this relationship to occur to begin with, right? And that's rooted in some things from unforgiveness from even way before that, like things that happened in my childhood and that had an impact on maybe my personal self-esteem or my thought process of, oh, wait a minute, I better, someone's asking me to marry him, I better go ahead and do this now, right? You know, that type of thing, or the guilt or the different things that I was feeling at the time that made me say, yes, this is what I have to do at age 24, right? Straight out of college. Never really been out of my parents' house. I went from, I lived on an apartment on college, but not really living on my own, and going straight into a marriage and motherhood and all of that that comes with that. So, but when I really reflect and think about it, it really boils down to I needed to forgive myself, then I needed to forgive him, and things changed, right? The whole trajectory of my life just shifted, and it's like that bitterness and that um, pain, and then just the being in the same space with him. Even though I mean, we did it on the regular basis because we had children, but it would have an actual physical impact on me. I would get ill, right? Stomach aching or headaches and things like that because I was just filled up with so much hurt and pain. And once I actually forgave him and was like, "Oh, he is not my issue anymore," all that went away. Um, but I also had to think about relationships after him. Had I fully forgiven still myself, because I was repeating some of those same patterns, right? And so that's also something to think about. Like when we're so let me go back and let y'all answer the question about, have you thought about or have you gone through the process of forgiving yourself? And if so, what was the result of that? If you want to share, you don't have to go into detail, but what was the result of that? And then we'll come back later on to some other things. So Kim and Courtney, are your hands still up from earlier, or did y'all raise your hands again? Okay, those are from earlier. Okay, so um, you told me Aisha B, right? Aisha B. Your hand is up for now, or from that was from earlier too? Okay. LaShirl, I saw your hand for a minute and then it went back down. So I see a new one. Tasha. Tasha. Hey, Tasha.
Hi,
How
and
are you?
sorry, I good. How are you?
Great.
And sorry, I just want to say sorry. I don't have my camera on. I didn't know about this until like it was about to start, and I'm not camera ready.
Okay.
Um, but I recently went through a breakup. It was like my first like really big adult breakup. And it was really tough. And I went through the process of like forgiving myself and things like that. But something that really helped me was just reminding myself to give myself grace, because I made the right decision at the time with the information available. And I had to remind myself that I would never do anything to intentionally hurt myself. It's just something that happened. And I really didn't want to become bitter. That was really important to me, because I look at my elders and I see them like as bitter. And I know sometimes it's like I found myself trying to run away from becoming like this bitter old Black woman, that's kind of what I was turning into. And then that's when I started to say, okay, let me give myself some grace, because sometimes when you try to repel something so much, you end up walking right into it. And I think sometimes when we dwell on forgiving ourselves for what happened in that negative relationship, it's like that kind of hinders us to be open from new love, because it's like, oh, I don't want to make that same mistake. I don't want to, I just forgave myself for letting someone do bad things to me. Like, why would I set myself up to let someone else do bad things to me? So it's just, I think part of forgiving yourself, just really reminding yourself, like, you are in love and love is good. Love is a good thing. And these are sometimes heartbreak is just part of love. Love is a risk, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose.
Yes, exactly. That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. LaShirl, I see your hand now.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I was trying to wait until I got home and got settled. But I just wanted to tap in for a moment. Forgiveness to me is, and everyone said it so beautifully, it's a form of release and reclaiming and transferring power back to yourself. Because as you hold on to these things, other things attach themselves to that unforgiveness. And I've had the conversation with women before, even Rhonda and the ladies, my friends, my Bennett sisters. We talk about being kind, as the sister was just saying, being kind and graceful to ourselves. So many times we look at our lives and we say, I am not where I should have been, or I feel like I should be in my life. And it may not even have anything to do with another relationship, but it's just yourself and your own goals and your own visions and dreams. We have to be kind and gentle to ourselves because life happens and we have to be able to pivot. And as the sister just said, we make the best decision and the best choice at that particular time with the information and the situation that we are in. And we must be kind and love on ourselves because we do that. Things change on a daily basis. Situations change minute by minute, but we did what we knew to do at that particular time. And so we have to forgive ourselves for that. So we have to reclaim and transfer that power back to ourselves by giving that forgiveness to ourselves.
Exactly. Yes, that's my Bennett sister, right? And that's important. That's definitely key. Grace and forgiving ourselves and reclaiming that power. Courtney, I saw your hand again, and then I'll come to. So we see some new people that have joined us too. So
Awesome. I actually really like that point about extending grace to yourself. I feel like when you get in the practice of doing that for yourself, it becomes easier to extend that grace to other people. And I really like when she said that I know I love myself, I care about myself, and I would not intentionally do something to harm myself, and yet I may have done so. And so that means if I could do something unintentionally to harm me, it's very possible that someone who cares about me, right, in their shortcoming and their humanity and their imperfection, because none of us are perfect, that hurts me and harms me, but still care very much about me in the very same way. And so if I can extend grace to myself and recognize my own humanity, especially challenges. So amplify what that sister said, because I thought that was very, very powerful.
yes, it was definitely very, very powerful. So how many of y'all watch This Is Us? I don't want to spoil anything, but how many of you watch This Is Us? I see Nye, I see Kim. So I won't give too much details, but last week, I think it was last week, there was a part, I forget, what's the sister's name? I always forget her name. The heavyset sister, I forget her name. But anyway, she revealed something that had happened to her in her youth to her husband, Toby. Toby is an awesome husband, I just have to say, because she puts him through the ringer on a regular, and he's there. But this very traumatic incident that happened in her youth was something that she had been carrying with her, and it of course, had an impact on their relationship. It had impact on some of the things that they've been trying, some goals that they were trying to accomplish. And it also was attributed to her weight gain. That was part of what she was saying, that had been carrying the secret for so long. And once she shared it with him, she then just kind of got into, in the way that she normally does, where she really gets into her head and starts kind of spiraling. She had to go find this Kate. Thank you, Tiana. Kate. Kate had to go find the person who was a part of this trauma and confront him. And I think, as Kim mentioned, she needed closure. And so I thought about that, and she went and she found him, and she made this whole big speech. And the whole time, when initially they reconnected, his view of what had happened was very different than her view. And so, like Courtney said, he knew he had caused her pain, but he didn't know to the extent, because she hadn't shared the whole story. But I just think about, and as I was watching, it was very powerful in that she allowed this holding on of this unforgiveness for decades to have such a severe impact on her entire life. It just made me think about and really start to reflect and question myself as to what are some things that I could be holding on to that I don't even realize I'm still holding them, right? And that they're having a residual impact on my success, my health, my potential in relationships. And so I was just wondering how you all feel about this whole need for closure. I'm like, I don't think I need to have a whole big speech, but I do think there needs to be some type of, for me personally, some type of tangible thing that I do. One thing I did do with my ex-husband, I wrote him a letter. And initially I wasn't going to actually give him the letter, but I did. And it actually ended up being a turning point in our being able to co-parent our children for the rest of the time, because we were able to actually put things out on the table and get things cleared up. But for you, any of you that would like to share, if you would like to share, is closure a thing that you feel like you need to have? And if so, how would you go about doing that? Or how have you gone about doing that in order to be released from the unforgiveness? Kim, is you begin, or is that an old hand?
LaCheryl, yeah.
Okay, I see LaCheryl, but I saw Kim's hand too. But
Oh,
LaCheryl,
okay.
Go ahead, LaCheryl.
Okay, so for me, I used to be one of those people that almost seemed like I was going to carry that unforgiveness to my grave. I would carry it. I could be angry and mad at you to so long that I would literally forget what I was upset about, or why, or what you had done to me. But as I have grown and as I have matured, I have come to the realization, because I went through a tragic experience in my life with the passing of my husband. And it was at that point that I had to learn that there are so many things in my life that I faced then and that I will face moving forward, that I will never, ever get that closure and those answers and that apology and those that be able to extend that forgiveness based on someone else's actions. So I had to determine in my own heart and make the conscious choice and decision that regardless of what someone else did or did not do, I could not allow it to affect me and how I move forward. I had to forgive them, whether they came to me and asked for forgiveness or not. So I did like you. I wrote letters, you know. I wrote it down. I put pen to paper and made the decision. I'm writing out all the stuff that I felt that hurt me or whatever effect it had on me. I had to write it out. I didn't give it to them, but just to get it out of my system, because I'm an internalist. I was an internalist for the most part. So I had to have some way to get it out of my system, to release it so that I could move forward. Because when we hold on to stuff, one sister said, it breeds other stuff. You know, it deals with our health. But I
Mhm.
remember being in a service one Sunday, and my pastor was preaching a sermon, and he talked about forgiveness. And he literally did an exercise where he tied a rope to himself, and then another person who was mimicking the person that he wasn't forgiving. And then he continued to do that with all the people that had offended him.
Mhm.
And the next thing you know, you look up and the pulpit is filled with people that are attached to ropes that are attached to him because he hasn't forgiven them.
Mhm.
So we have to figure out a way. And like I said, that was what I did. I had to figure out that way, which was write it down. Some people I sent emails. Some people I sent text messages. Whether they responded or not, that was up to them. But I released it because I put it out there and I got it out of my system.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Kim, is your hand up?
I was just gonna say, I know for me, the before counseling version of me needed closure and just couldn't get past, I guess, the hurt, the pain.
Mhm.
And the after counseling version of me will write a letter and
Mhm.
take that Bath and Body Works candle and
Right.
burn the letter, because the after counseling version of me doesn't need anyone to acknowledge my hurt. I've
Mm.
acknowledged my hurt and I've written that letter, and I can watch the letter burn. And that allows me to release that.
Mhm.
And so I'm a different like I say, and people always talk about counseling, but sometimes you need someone to kind of listen to you and help guide you through. And so I'm a much better person because of that, in terms of forgiveness, forgiving myself, and all of that.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. Yes, I'm looking at some of the chat from YouTube, and one of my Bennett sisters is saying that she's not as gracious as the rest of us. I know who that is. And others are saying that they need closure, but it is important to express how you feel and how you have felt. It's a release. Um, Brother Bill says forgiveness doesn't require an apology, right? And that's true. We may never get the apology from that we seek, because again, that person, they don't even realize that they've hurt you, right? They might have moved on and they're living la vida loca and like, what you talking about? So they're not going to apologize. So if we're harboring that, I see another, the same Bennett sister says that she finds that writing helps, but she has the memory like an elephant. So, that is true. You can, if that memory starts going and you start remembering and thinking about, so that brings me to my next question, because I think Courtney touched on a little bit too about forgive and forget. Do you have to forget? If you forgive someone, do you have to forget? Do you have to let them back in your life? I'm seeing a whole bunch of heads shaking no, right? So now let's want to expound on that. Do we have to let them back, or how do we forgive and still keep our peace and still move forward? Aisha. I want to make sure I say it right. Aisha B, right?
Yes. I
Okay.
had so much trouble finding the mute button.
Okay.
I just wanted to add on to what the young lady who was talking before me said. Everything she said, like when you said, how did you take the steps, starting with that therapy, that's an amazing thing. I went to therapy to deal with people at my job, but the therapist, decided to pull back layers, and she took me through those steps, saying write a letter and all this kind of stuff. But through my therapy processes, I worked on me and ultimately forgave me first, because it was two people I had to deal with, my father and my son. There's two different kinds of forgiveness, and the father forgiveness, of course, all my life. So I'm a little more ballsy though. I can't write a letter and then just set it on fire. I have to come. I feel like as long as you're living and you're conscious and you can have a conversation, you can apologize or you can discuss whatever. As long as we can talk, we can talk. So I finally got the courage up, reached out, but you had to prepare yourself to be ready for any answer. You can't go in looking for the answer that you want. You can't go in looking for the emotion and reaction that you're seeking. I was prepared for any answer. And when I asked these questions, you know, you all encouraged and everything, like, why not me? Why didn't I deserve a dad? All that kind of thing. His answer was simply like, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm sorry. I did the best, you know, I could do, like this, like she said, in the moment. Before I was a parent, I wouldn't have understood any of that. Like, what you mean you don't know? After becoming a parent and having to put myself in possibly his shoes, well, I did. I could accept that answer. Just the fact that you answered honestly, didn't try to, you know, blow no smoke up my butt, tell me anything that sounded right or whatever. Just answer honestly. Right. And then it was like, this is somebody I haven't talked to, you know, since I was like 12.
Wow.
I'm 47. So it like we picked up and just started talking. I really literally felt the release of letting all of that anger go. And it's amazing. So if you're sitting there angry right now about some stuff, you can't talk it out. Do what you got to do to let it go, but get to the point of letting it go because it feels so good to just be happy and to sleep at night and everything. And then I want to say, as far as forgiving myself about my son, your kids, the things you decided to do while you were parenting, when they get older, you know, they have their personal damage or whatever from it, but that can't be like a guilt yoke around your neck for the rest of your life. Like, just like I had to go on living, no matter how I was feeling, you're going to have to do the same thing. I offer you the path to therapy. I offer you the path to working it out because I took those steps, but you're not going to keep me feeling guilty about parenting mistakes I made in that decision. And, you know, you don't want to be cold like, yeah, but did you die? But at the same time, you're standing here, you know, you're standing here, a high school graduate, you know, double major, double language, all these accomplishments that people who, you know, somebody else in your shoes don't have.
Right.
Go forward and be great, please. Be better than me. Right. But you have to forgive yourself and let your child go ahead and learn life. You can't live with the guilt of the mistakes you did in your child's adult life. That's all I wanted to add to the discussion in case anybody's in that space.
Yeah.
Don't keep coddling them. It's not helping.
Yes, that's a whole word right there. That's a whole word in that, you know, because this whole parenting thing is, you know, people often say there's not a book for it. Well, there are some books for it, and there's the Bible, and then but we also have, you know, just the way the things that happen in our life and what didn't happen, and you know who's there, who's not there, all those things that have an impact. And my mother used to always say, you know, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And it builds character, right? I used to hate it when she would say that, but it does build character, right? The hardships, the difficulties, and yes, I was that mother that told my kids that, and they hated to, but it's real. It does build character, and you know, when I look back on some of the things that I did that I thought were mistakes, actually turned out to help them. You know, as I see them as adults now, they're able to make decisions. They're self-sufficient. They get to do things for themselves. Yeah, I was waiting to see that necklace. Yes, LaCheryl. But it's just, you know, it's those types of things that we do have the tendency sometimes to beat ourselves up. So that's another area where we need to forgive ourselves. So thank you, Aisha B, for bringing that up. I see Tasha, your hand is up again, and then Courtney.
Oh, thanks. So I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of what the last sister just said. it's kind of like a comment, kind of like a rhetorical question, but I mean, if I'm allowed, I would love like
free.
some wisdom.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Be free.
So the theme that I'm definitely noticing is that we keep talking about like you got to forgive, you know, let it go. It makes you feel so much better. What's the balance between that, like that rush to forgive, and also giving yourself time and honoring your own truth and, you know, just kind of getting there in like a organic way, in a way that feels like right and natural to you? Because like what I have noticed in the past is like when I rush to forgive, I convince my conscious mind that I have forgiven, but then, you know, there's those triggers. So this time when I went through like a process of forgiving, like I really just gave myself time, I gave myself grace, I honored my truth, and it definitely was like a better process. But I'm just wondering, like how do you know? That was something I was asking myself, like, okay, how do you know when this mourning period is over? Like, how do you know, hey, that's it, I'm done, like I have truly forgiven? And on top of that, like when do you know, like when your mourning is turning and giving yourself time is turning negative? Like when is that turning into a negative thing? When is that turning into bitterness?
That's some wonderful questions. I'm going to open the floor to anyone else to answer, and I'll throw my little 2 cents in. Kim, I saw you smiling. Did you have something you wanted to add? Okay.
So one of the things that so I'll just be transparent. My marriage ended because of domestic violence. And one of the things that I learned through counseling and therapy was when you can tell the story and you're not a victim, when you can tell the story and there are no tears, when you can tell the story and you can see the story for what it was, then you have done the work.
Mm. Your sound just went away. Kim, can you hear? Can y'all hear? Kim, we can't hear you. You're not on mute, but we can't hear you anymore.
That's going
Okay, there it
to,
is.
we know the girlfriend to call with the golf club that's going to ride out with us. We know the girlfriend to call that's going to say, I'm on my way with a bottle of Jack Daniels. We have the girlfriend who's going to give us the truth. And when you go through it and you're calling the girlfriend who's going to say, you knew what he was when you met him, you knew what the situation was. When you call that girlfriend, then you have done the work and you have gone through the steps. But one of the things that I did learn, you have to go through every step. If you have to cry, you have to scream, you have to get it out, and you have to accept your role in that. And once you accept your role, then you've done the work, and there should be no more and you won't have those residuals because you've done the work. But you have to do the work, you have to do those steps no matter what you go through.
Love it. Thank you. Anyone else want to respond? I see some comments in the chat. I'm going to come to the question from the chat in just a moment, but I love that I hadn't even really thought of it that way, but for me, forgiving wasn't like immediate. It definitely was not. It took some time. It took some growth. It took, like you said, going through all the different phases and the steps and the, you know, since we're on a public platform, I won't say the things that I was thinking, the people that I wanted to call, right? You know, but it was, and again, everyone is different. So there's really not like a set time frame, I would think. I think it's really, as Kim just said, when you feel it, that you can do this without and you feel that release, then it's easier to do. And sometimes the forgiveness might be even incremental. Like you can say the words to yourself, I forgive that person, but you don't quite feel it just then. But that doesn't mean, you haven't at least started the process, right? And then over time, it can continue to grow to the point where hearing that person's name doesn't affect you, right? Or being in the room or doing those different things, then you realize, oh wow, I really have forgiven them, right? I really have moved on. I've grown. I've moved forward. But there's a great question here in the chat from another one of my
hands up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Go ahead, Amber. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm Amber.
Go.
I'm a youngin', but unfortunately I've had to do a lot of healing, so I have a positioning. That's not a word, but anyway, I think I've been forced to force myself to heal, and what made me do the work was realizing it was hindering me in other parts of my life. Like there is no person on this earth that is worth me not doing whatever it is that I intend to do in my life, and I'm very much that person. Like I'm gonna do it. I don't care if my mama don't agree. I don't care if my daddy don't agree. It's happening because I had decided that it was happening. And so once I realized that whatever the thing was a blocker, I was like, oh no, I got to deal with that. And so whether that took writing a letter, whether that took making a phone call, whether that took blocking somebody, like whatever the thing was. And I feel like every healing has had a different kind of reaction, but it started with making the conscious decision that you are not worth the impact that you're having on my life, and I will not give you this power. And so I have decided that I am bigger and better than whatever, and therefore I am no longer concerned about what you have. And my mom always says, and I know she's here and I'm not hyping her, but she always says, like, you're a non-factor in my life.
Oh yeah,
I have that revelation of you are a non-factor. Like there is nothing that you can say or do from this point forward that really truly impacts the rest of my life. And if there is, I need to sever those ties and make that separation. Then I can move forward. And if I see you, I see you. And if I come across you, I come across you, and we cool. Because I've already decided what I'm gonna do for me is for me, and you are irrelevant.
Yep, you are irrelevant. No. You're getting some snaps, Amber. I don't know if you can see them, but you're getting snaps.
And I got my camera on. But next time.
Next time you have your camera on. Okay. Yeah, and I love it.
Read. That was a read from the gods.
I love it. I love it. Oh yeah. Aisha B says, if I'm not responsible for you, please go with God. Go with God, right?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yes. A long time.
On my.
Yes, you got the fingers going. You're like, please go with God.
Please don't make me meditate you out of here. Please go peacefully. Don't get thrown out.
Right. Exactly.
I'm still not gonna hurt from that.
Right.
I'm still gonna be good with that. I don't want to be malicious. I have no ill intent. I need you to just go and go.
Yeah. I'm also that friend that'll bust out the windows of your car though, and I'm also that friend that you call to tell you that you're wrong. So whatever needs to happen, I'm also the friend that'll bring the jack to your house. I can do all of the above. Whatever needs to happen for said situation is what needs to happen. But we're gonna move forward regardless.
But we're gonna move forward regardless. Yes. A long time ago, I don't remember, and some people have their issues with Bishop T.D. Jakes, but he preached a sermon about the gift of goodbye. And that hit me like, I was like, that's a beautiful gift to have. I can say, not from the standpoint of I don't care about people, but from the standpoint of I can say goodbye. I can say I don't have to even make like Kate did, make the speech, but I can say, I forgive you. I'm good. You're a non-factor. Goodbye. No hard feelings. I'm moving on. And it does help to do that, to be able to have that ability to release and let go. But Crystal has a comment in YouTube. She says, is there anything that is unforgivable? And do you have a deal breaker on forgiveness? So that's a question to the panel. So is there anything that is unforgivable? Or do you have a deal breaker on forgiveness?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Ariante, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, I have a deal breaker. Matter of fact, in the past relationship, we wrote down all of our deal breakers and we signed it basically like a clause or a contract rather. So if we broke any one of those things, there was no discussion. We already knew what it was. I will remind you what it was that you broke, and then I'm peacing out. But anywho, there's just an idea for other people for later relationships. But the deal breaker was no domestic violence. That's one of the deal breakers. Talking about my angel baby, my angel daughter. We will not discuss her at all because that's a very sensitive subject to me. And things of that nature. I mean, basically, just like I said, the violence or any type of abuse, or talking about my daughter in any capacity. That I don't care how angry you get; those are subjects that are close to you. You better find something else to dig at, because I know that's probably where you're going, but don't do it, because if that's where you go, you have crossed an official line that cannot be crossed back over. I don't care how many I'm sorry's you have. I don't care if you even buy me the thing that I've asked for most in the world. I'm sorry. That's just, I'm not going, because you knew how sensitive I was about that, and I won't be able to look at you the same.
Right.
So there are definitely deal breakers. And I guess because I have the floor, can I have a moment to expound on something that somebody else had said? And I was thinking, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I was thinking about boundaries, and for me, I've had to set up boundaries with my family. I moved away 3 years ago, and that was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but it was the best decision for me because I grew all the way up. I mean, I had already moved out, and I was married, divorced, and then the divorce challenged me to leave my home city, state, and go elsewhere. And it grew me all the way up, and I became even closer to God, and I became one with myself. So I am enjoying the space I'm in, and I love my house, and it's just me. And I've been warned, whoever comes into this space is going to be very hard because I've been alone for so long. So anyway, just pray for me. But anywho, boundaries are necessary, and you have to let even people as close to you as your parents, let them know, hey, I love you, and I'm creating a boundary. This is what we will talk about. This is what we will not talk about. If I said I don't want to discuss it, that means I don't want to discuss it. It does not mean you find a loophole and still do it anyway. I'll be transparent. My mama has a horrible habit of doing this thing, and she has this sense of pride and entitlement of I'm the mama, which means I can say and do everything I want, whenever I want, however I want. I'm like, no, ma'am. I said, because need I remind you, when I was a child, if I did any one of those things, what was you doing? I was whooping your tail. I said, exactly. Can I whoop your tail then? No. I said, okay, then respect my boundaries. She said, okay, good point, good point, good point. I said, thank you. So boundaries are necessary to protect your peace, and so they know that you mean business, and it's important for you to have that going forward. And I didn't know that you really had to protect your peace from your own family sometimes. I didn't understand that until I became a full adult. That's odd as all get out to me, but I am grateful that I got to that place where I'm like, yes, you got to set up parameters for even your closest family members, because sometimes they get out of pocket and they forget that you are an adult. You may be their child, but you're an adult child, and you have your ways of doing things just like they do, and it's supposed to be respect all around. So it's necessary, and I definitely understand the power of forgiveness, because it holds you hostage to the situation and not them, because they definitely sleeping at night, ain't thought about you at all. But it's definitely for you, and it's not for them. And therapy is definitely essential if necessary. And writing letters, as everybody else has said so far, those are great tools of release as well. And if you need to find you a brick or something, y'all, throw a brick as well, because I throw candles. I go to the Dollar Tree and buy them little cheap candles, and I will probably break a candle.
Okay.
on the ground. It's just a release. Just to hear the shatter, it's breaking something inside of me. So like I'm releasing it. It's just therapeutic for me.
Smash
So
therapy works, right?
it does work.
It does.
It does work. It does work. So that's just another thing, that I do on top of writing or listening to music or taking a ride or talking to God, which is which is the best one for me. So yeah, that was all my 2 cents
Well,
or
I
3 cents.
appreciate it all, and I'm glad you brought up the breaking things and all that, because maybe about when the pandemic first started, and I see your hand, Courtney and Kim. I'm coming to y'all next. There was a time when I was just feeling burdened, and one of my friends who is a therapist, actually, I invited. She was on with us a while back. T. I was just talking with her in general because we were coworkers, and she calls me Miss Slate, Mama Slate. You just need to scream. You just gotta let it out. Just scream and let it out. And I tried, and I honestly could not scream. And that to me was like more revealing and more telling that I've been pushing emotions down for so long, and just keeping on the strong face and keeping, being, keeping everything even kill and level and trying to make sure that everything was picture perfect, that I couldn't even scream in the room by myself. And so I had to really like sit with that for a minute and ask myself, why am I stifling my own voice, right? And not being able to scream. But I did break something. I think I did, like you said, it wasn't as dramatic as a glass, but it was maybe like I broke up some bubble wrap or did something that it was actually the physical action of breaking something, and that helped release some. But I'm working on that scream. I need to be able to just let it all out, and just really and I might need to do the smash therapy, go to the dollar store and get a candle and just throw it against the wall or something with my safety goggles, of course. But we have to be safe. Courtney, I think your hand was first, and then Kim, or it might have been
Yeah.
Edward.
So hopefully my internet connection holds this time.
Right.
But it's been happening all day. But so the question, when I raised my hand, the question you'd ask about the forgiving and forgetting, and whether you had, I was trying to hold on to that, but so many other powerful things were said. It's just adding on to the different things. So I'll try to say them all together. So no, I don't think that you have to forget. I think that, it's information, right? The experiences that you have are information about the people and the world around you, and you need to use the information to make better informed decisions moving forward. So no, you don't want to forget. You want to release the emotion, and then distill the objective information that guides you forward. And then I think there was a comment about, then there came the question about the time period and giving yourself time. And when I think about it, for me, I try to forgive immediately, because the sister that said, I am trying to move forward, I'm trying to be the very best me I can be, and holding on to bitterness or whatever against you impacts me more than it impacts you. And because I love me, I'm gonna let that go. I'm not gonna let you stand in the way, or your behavior stand in the way of my growth. So I'm gonna forgive immediately. However, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? Because you hurt me, right? And because I'm human and I'm giving myself grace, I'm giving myself time to heal. So, you step on my toe and I know you didn't mean to, or you're a bad dancer and you got 2 left feet and now you stepped on my toe. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna forgive that, because you're a bad dancer and you have bad coordination, but my toe still hurts. So I can't dance with you, right? I need some time. And so I feel like that's sort of my process to kind of address all those different comments, is that, you can forgive quick. It's a decision that we make, but it doesn't mean that you don't feel it. And I do think that we can separate out healing from forgiveness, and forgiveness from forgetting. Those are 3 distinct different things.
Right.
And forgiveness, I feel like, is the first step to kind of making our way all the way to.
I love it. I love it. That is so true. So true. Kim, no, you took your hand back down, or
I was just gonna piggyback off Courtney. The thing was, for me, there's nothing that's unforgivable. However, let me age myself. I'm willing to forgive you, but I can't forget, as
Mhm.
Aretha said. So I will forgive you for myself, but I promise you, I won't ever, and I do mean I won't ever forget what you did, what you said, and I will never, ever allow you to do that to me again. And
Mhm.
so while I may forgive you, you won't ever get a second chance to do anything that you did, and you probably won't be in my space again. So for me, there's nothing that I won't forgive, but I won't ever forget it either. And I
Mhm.
think that's important. And I think a lot of times people think forgiving means forgiving doesn't mean we're cool. Forgiving means, I acknowledge it and I may have had a part in it, but you won't ever get that same space again. You won't ever get the same version of me again.
Yeah, that's real. That is real. The same version of me that has definitely changed. Right? Definitely changed. So when we're thinking about all of these things and the forgiveness and the fact that some of us have come to the point where we are able to do it quickly, some it takes time. How do you think these items or this feeling is having an impact on us in this quest for relationship and the quest for quality relationship? Because we could have any old kind of relationship, but I believe as much beauty is on this screen right now, and y'all that are watching on YouTube can't see the people that have their cameras off, but I can see their pictures. Gorgeous, intelligent, articulate, wonderful Black women. We aren't single just because there ain't nobody out there. I think we're making some decisions, some quality decisions at this stage in our lives to not repeat some cycles, to not enter into relationships with people that aren't in the same place. So where does this go, this forgiveness piece? How does that impact positively or negatively the quest for relationships, quality relationships?
Are we raising hands?
Yeah, go ahead, Courtney. You got this. Go ahead.
I said, are we raising hands?
You don't have to. I can see y'all. It's a smaller group tonight.
I will say in a relationship, like I feel like the people who can sustain, everything else being equal, to give your relationship the best shot, I think you really do have to be able to forgive quickly and often.
Mhm.
Quickly and often, because that unforgiveness can block the love kind of flowing through you. And it can pile up very quickly, right? And someone that you're in close proximity with, someone said, and I don't know who it is, but someone said it's the people that are closest to you that can hurt you the most. And that's important. I mean, that's partly because I think you're so vulnerable and attached to them. And so, but at the same time, that grace that we talked about, where you say, you know what, I'm human and I make mistakes. My partner is human and they make mistakes. And so I'm going to try to look at the big picture. I'm going to pull up my love list. A girlfriend of mine sent me an article, and it said how to move past disappointment, how to move past your partner doing something that hurts you or hurts your feelings. And one part of it was pull up the big picture and look at your love list. Look at all the things that they did and put that situation in context with all the other stuff to get a sense of where is this person's heart really toward me? Because now we're talking about how to forgive, I think. Right. But where's this person's heart really toward me, right? And if all the evidence says this person really cares and really loves me, but they have some vulnerabilities or some situations that cause them to do some things that prick me, then I'm going to extend grace, right? And I'm going to choose to change how I feel. I'm going to choose to let it go. And that way I can engage that person in a way that might inspire them to work harder to grow and be better. But if I don't do that, if I hold on to it, then the resentment builds. And now my way of engaging them is prickly, and so it's, it's going to come off in certain ways, and it deteriorates the fabric of the relationship more and more and more and more and more until there's nothing left. So I feel like your relationship cannot breathe if you are not willing to breathe forgiveness into it on a daily basis. Not to mean domestic violence or things like that, right? That you say, well, they bought me a house and a car, but they beat me up. So in the grand scheme of things, no. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But to look at it in totality, is this healthy? And are we dealing with some regular daily indiscretions that, are just a part of a relationship, as opposed to something that says this is a bad situation for me to be in and I need to exit? But if you lean on the former, meaning this is some just mistakes this person is making and they need to grow, then you extend grace and you let it go. So that's my experience anyway.
Right. And even some of those mistakes, going back to some of the things we said before, maybe they don't realize they are mistakes until we communicate it, right? Until we talk about it. And now if it's a consistent pattern that continues, it's like, okay, that's a flag to start paying attention to. Like, well, we've already had this conversation. You know how this impacts me, you know how this affects me, but you still continue to do it. That's something different, right? So Ariante, is your hand up again, or is this from earlier?
That's from earlier. I'm sorry.
No worries. I just want to make sure I acknowledged all of that. Kim, is this a new one or from earlier?
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've learned going into a healthy relationship, because I don't want just a relationship, I want a healthy one. One of the things I learned is whatever the indiscretion is, whatever it is.
Sound is gone. Your sound is gone again. It's not on mute, but it's just like your sound is going in and out. I don't know if it's the internet. And you were going to say something powerful too. I could tell.
Well, dang, come on, Kim.
Right? Come on. You're mute. Now you're on mute.
All right, so there we go. So if it will not matter in 5 years, don't let it matter today.
Ooh. See, I knew she was coming with something powerful.
And so going forward, like I said, to a healthy relationship, there are so many things that he will bring, you will bring. But if it will not matter in 5 years, don't let that be a factor today.
Right. I love it. I know some people, I'm divorced and my marriage just disintegrated over some big things and some little things, and a lot of it miscommunication. I know some people that are willing to divorce each other over the socks being left on the floor, things like that, right? But it's really more to it than just the socks being left on the floor. It's a bigger feeling. But if they don't fully discuss it and talk about it and explain why this is an issue and why that's an issue, it can become an ulcer and really just tear apart a relationship. So we go back all the time to communication. The gentleman talked Tuesday about boundaries. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it, but boundaries are important on both sides of the gender aisle, as they kept saying, and expectations, communication, having some grace, not to the point where you're so rigid, like what you have to do X, Y, and Z, because again, part of relationship is compromise on both sides, right? That's one of my concerns, Ariante, too, is like, I've been living here with just me and my kids for so long, and now they're out. It's like, oh, how do I open up for someone else, right? Because this is my space, right? But it's important. If that's something that I do want 5 years from now, I'm going to have to make those adjustments and do what needs to happen in order for that to work. So I love it. LaCheryl, go ahead.
As I get more graceful in age, I focus to live my life as lightheartedly as possible. There's enough going on in my day-to-day life that I have to deal with to add on not forgiving someone else that has absolutely nothing to do with my current life. So when I think about relationships, I have always approached them in the sense, everyone gets a clean slate.
Mhm.
because I put myself in the other person's position. I don't want anyone charging me with hurts and infractions and disappointments that someone else created. I wouldn't want them to bring that to a relationship. So I make a conscious decision not to bring that myself. The magnitude of the relationship that I want, where you're emotionally available and being able to be emotionally naked, I can't afford to have and harbor unforgiveness and bring it along with me to a new relationship. Have to make sure that when I go into the next one, that I'm going in with that clean slate.
Mhm. I agree completely. It is important. But does operating forgiveness mean that we're weak?
No,
Does it mean
not
that
at
we're a
all.
pushover? I
I
saw a
think
post, I don't know if it was in the lounge, if it was in the lounge today or someplace else. I saw a post from a young woman said she doesn't want to hear anything from older women about relationships because we grew up in a misogynistic culture, and so we're willing to give into that. So that just made me ask the question about this.
it doesn't mean I'm a doormat because
Okay.
I forgive, because you got to think about the reason that you're forgiving. You're not forgiving for that person. You're forgiving for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anything to hinder me, my space. Someone said that earlier. I don't want my
Amber.
things held up. I don't
Mhm.
want anything that I'm supposed to have not be able to come and flow freely to me because I'm holding on to some anger and some animosity and some unforgiveness from somebody else that has left me in my presence 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And they're living their life like it's golden. And I'm sitting here struggling because I can't forgive. It's not a sign of weakness. To me, it's a sign of strength. I forgive
Right.
you because you even when you didn't even ask for it, I still forgave you. And it's not for you. I got to be healthy. I have to be healthy mentally. I have to be healthy emotionally. I have to be healthy spiritually. I have to be healthy financially. All of these components are going to add on to anything else I do in the future. So when you look at the reason that you're actually forgiving, it's a sign of strength.
It
So
is.
true. So
It
true.
is. So true. And so Mahatma Gandhi said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. So, right? We are strong. We are strong. We are mighty. We are powerful. Mahatma Gandhi, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute, not a attribute, but the attribute of the strong. I'm an English teacher, so words matter, right? So the word choice makes a difference. And I believe, he said that because it does require strength. Trust me, it required strength for me to sit there and have Christmas with my ex-husband and his new wife and our kids, right? That was strength, right? It was strength to not place that phone call that I wanted to place when he didn't show up for, to pick up the kids, those types of things. That required strength. It's strength for us to even be putting ourselves out here in search of or in hope of a healthy relationship after being hurt previously, right? A couple of my other friends I've talked to, one time I mentioned they were, a lot of us had the tendency to put the wall up. I'm like, I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to be hurt again. And I asked the question, what's the worst that could happen? We have survived a lot, and we've grown and we've matured and we've forgiven, we've not forgiven, we have, we've cried, we've thrown stuff, we've broken stuff, but we're still here, right? So what is the worst that can happen? So I'm not just saying just jump in all willy-nilly, but we are stronger and wiser. We know now what are those deal breakers that we mentioned earlier. We know the areas, and I love that idea to just sit down and talk about. These are the things that are no, this is a no zone for me. We cannot go here. These are the things, and I know you're just like, you need to know their love language, right? These are the areas, because we can have the tendency to step on those toes in a intentional way, knowing that it's going to be that dig. But if you really truly want to build a healthy relationship with someone, you're going to try to avoid those dagger moments as much as possible. Aisha B, I don't want to I saw your hand. I'm sorry. I just glanced over and saw it.
No, yeah, that last sister, she spoke it all, like the strength and what you said, what Mahatma Gandhi said. I'm over here like, yes, praise him. Because you're weak if you just can't find it in yourself to forgive something. What I've run into, and then the thing about the young girl saying you can't talk, the old people can't tell her anything. What I've run into talking to the younger people, just listening to them, I'm like, you have to realize that I'm sitting on the other side of where you are.
Right.
And I'm telling you, you will survive it. But just like you come to me for guidance and you want to share because you think I'm a good resource for that, you're going to have to listen and trust me when I tell you, yeah, this little part might hurt. Trust me, it repulsed me to go bring stuff to people that, I don't want to forgive you.
Right. Trust me.
However, in order for me to grow,
right.
I'm gonna have to do this.
Right.
Like you said, with the husband coming over with the new wife, for me, it was the stepfather. My stepfather beat the shit out of me and my mom. So for her to let him in the house every holiday, and then he's bringing the new wife, ooh, I had to go outside a lot, and it was in Philly, so it was cold. But then after a couple of years, it was like, well, I'm looking at her like it's not affecting her. Why is it affecting you? So that's a big part of it too. Like, why does it affect you so much? Why do you not forgive? Not want to, but why do you not forgive? Apparently there's something else you got to work out. Like, people will talk about this one thing or this one person that, oh, like you say your husband, but there's something else that there's another thing, and it's within you that you have to address why this is hurting you so much. Is it really bothering you, or are you just pissed off because you ain't get to, hit that tire or whatever before he moved on or whatever? Like, I can't speak on love relationships because I cut people off. But when it comes to the family component, I realized that you can't cut everybody off. You're standing there and you're like, oh my God, I need people. So I want to have my, father in my life. So what do I have to do to get that? And you get a gift of that. I'm talking to a person now, like, you get a gift from that. By me taking the steps to forgive my father, now my son knows his grandfather, because that wasn't going to happen. I didn't see that in any part of his future. You know what I mean? And now he knows my father, his grandfather, not just his father's father. He met an aunt, he met his family. This was something that I was going to keep from my child all his life until he went to discover, his roots and everything, if he could. Why do that?
Right.
Why wait and contain all of that hateful energy within yourself? Release it and let it go. But you have to figure out why you won't forgive someone if you're in that space. When you're ready to forgive somebody, you don't have to explain it to anybody. You're talking like this about it, like, oh my God, it was so great. You feel so good. So every time a younger person, starts with that, I'm like, yeah, that's that millennial thing where y'all, in that microwave stage and you want everything to be over just like that. But where are you finding yourself? On dating apps, dating, all these different people, searching for something you don't even know what you're searching for. So you're being put out there. And then you go, when you get older, you come to singles groups and you hear all of this stuff that men are saying is wrong about what you're doing. You're like, oh my God. So let it go, because something else is going to come. As long as you're living, like you said, something else is going to happen. So how heavy is your bag going to be? That whole Bag Lady song with Erykah Badu. How heavy is your bag gonna be? How many bags you gonna put on it? You on the bus, girl?
Right. That's right. That's so true. I love it. I love it. Well, and we brought it back full circle because it all really comes back to us, right? And that reflection, that self-reflection, determining what's important, determining what we want, and what it's going to take to get what we want, and how we're not going to allow others to block that. So we are at time. It is 10:02. I appreciate you all, ladies. Thank you so much. This is always a wonderful time of just building each other up, sharing. I learned so much. We were able to, I think, and as we mentioned earlier, I think, sisterhood is real, stronger together. And it's just, it's always a blessing to connect with the ladies of the Velvet Room. I appreciate y'all so much. Next month, second Thursday, we'll be right back. I'm open to topic ideas. You want to send me a message or on Facebook, or chat me, or Instagram, either way. I want this to be a platform that is of interest to you all, and I believe we're on the right path. We're on the right path. Please continue to stay safe, stay distant, do all the things that we need to do. Yes, please wear your masks. If you're getting the vaccine, do what you need to do to stay safe and to protect yourselves so very much. I'm checking the chat. Brother Bill says, great show. So we got that seal of approval. All right. So thank y'all so very much. Have a blessed rest of January. Wear your pearls next week for the inauguration as you're at home watching it, right? And take care.
Good night, lady.
Good night, y'all.